At the summer reunion, my daughter-in-law rose from her chair, lifted her mimosa, and smiled as though she had been waiting all afternoon for an audience. "To the woman who never brings anything," Marissa announced, "but somehow always expects a place at our table." Laughter swept across the stone patio behind her parents' house. It was not polite laughter. It was eager, loud, and grateful that someone else had been chosen as the target. Marissa's mother hid her grin behind 2 fingers. Her brothers leaned back in their chairs. Even the neighbors laughed. My son Daniel sat beside his wife and studied his plate. He did not laugh. He did not defend me either. That silence hurt more than the joke. I was 63. I had buried my husband, raised 2 children, and survived grief that once felt large enough to swallow a house. I did not break easily. Still, humiliation lands differently when it comes from people whose bills you quietly pay. Everyone waited for me to shrink and protect their comfort. Instead, I stood. My chair scraped against the stones. The laughter faded. I raised my water glass toward Marissa. "To the family," I said. "That just lost the mortgage payment I have covered for the past 2 years." Silence struck the patio. Marissa's smile vanished. Her mother's fork clattered against her plate. Daniel finally looked up, his face drained of color. "Mom," he whispered, "what are you doing?" "Leaving." I set down the glass, picked up my handbag, and walked through the house. No one followed at first. They were too busy understanding what I had revealed. Marissa's renovated kitchen, white SUV, private preschool, and country club membership were proof that she had succeeded. I had just exposed the foundation beneath that life. By the time I reached my car, Daniel was calling from the doorway. I did not turn around. My phone began vibrating before I backed onto the street. I switched it to silent and drove home. Strangely, I was not angry. Anger had paced inside me for months, keeping me awake while I tried to justify the unjustifiable. What I felt now was release. The arrangement had begun 25 months earlier, on a rainy November evening. Daniel had lost his regional sales job after a merger. He called from his car, too ashamed to tell Marissa. Their mortgage was enormous. They had bought the house during his best commission year, then borrowed against it for a kitchen renovation, a basement theater, and the stone patio where I was later mocked. Marissa refused to pause the renovations. She said stopping would lower the home's value and make them look unstable. The first reason was debatable. The second was the truth. Daniel asked whether I could help for 2 months. I had savings from my husband Peter's life insurance and my pension. I lived in the modest brick ranch Peter and I had bought when Daniel was 6. The mortgage was long paid. I grew vegetables, repaired my own curtains, and drove a 10-year-old sedan with a dent in the passenger door. I agreed to cover their shortfall until Daniel found work. At first, they were grateful. Marissa brought flowers. Daniel called every Sunday, and the twins held a handmade thank you sign. 2 months became 4. Daniel found a lower-paying job. Marissa said changing preschool would harm the twins, the club charged a cancellation fee, the SUV was leased, and the contractor needed payment. There was always a reason. I paid the bank directly. I told myself I was protecting my grandchildren. I told myself family help should not be measured like a business transaction. By the 6th month, the flowers stopped. By the 9th, Marissa acted as though the payment were part of my natural responsibilities. She complained if I arrived late to babysit. She criticized the clothes I bought the twins because they were not from her preferred brands. At Christmas, she gave me a candle and asked whether I could contribute to a ski trip for the children's memories. I refused. They went anyway. Daniel promised his bonus would let them take over by spring. Spring came. The bonus was smaller than expected. Then summer came. Then another Christmas. The worst part was not the money. It was how invisible it made me. Marissa joked about my thrift store cardigans while wearing boots worth more than my grocery budget. She called my house cozy, in the tone people use for a waiting room. She stored holiday decorations and outgrown baby clothes in my guest room because her 3-car garage was cluttered. At gatherings, she assigned me to refill trays, supervise children, or clean spills. Daniel apologized afterward. He never stopped her in the moment. When I reached home after the reunion, I parked and listened to the engine cool. Peter used to say resentment was a smoke alarm. Removing the battery did not mean the house was safe. For 2 years, I had been removing the battery. Inside, I made tea, turned my phone face down, and opened my laptop. The next mortgage transfer was scheduled in 5 days. I found the recurring payment and finally added up the history. $1,800 each month, 24 payments, $43,200. The total stunned me. Each payment had felt temporary. Together, they represented years of saving and postponed repairs. I clicked Cancel Series, confirmed it, and watched the payment disappear. At the back window, bees drifted through the lavender. For the first time in months, I imagined a future that did not depend on someone else's choices. By Monday morning, my voicemail was full. Daniel's first message was offended. "You embarrassed Marissa. She made a bad joke and you turned it into a public attack." His second was frightened. "The mortgage transfer is not showing. Please tell me this is a mistake." Marissa texted 3 times. "You humiliated us over a joke. The twins live here too. You cannot make financial decisions when you are emotional." I laughed at the last one. The woman whose household depended on my account was warning me about financial judgment. I replied only to Daniel. "The payment is canceled. I will not contribute to your household again. You have 5 days before the mortgage is due. Make the necessary arrangements." Then I went to the guest room. The room had once been Peter's study. After his death, I kept it unchanged for years because moving his books felt like admitting he would never return. Eventually, I painted it cream and added a daybed. Now it was packed with Marissa's belongings: plastic bins of wreaths, expensive baby clothes she planned to resell, a high chair, unused lamps, framed photographs that no longer matched her decor, and monogrammed picnic baskets. Even my grief had become storage for their excess. I found boxes and began packing. My daughter Natalie called before noon. She lived 3 hours away and had always seen through Marissa's polished sweetness. "Tell me the reunion story is true," she said. "Which version?" "The one where you announced you were their secret mortgage lender and walked out like a judge." "I did not say secret mortgage lender." "You should have." Her voice softened. "Are you all right?" "I am embarrassed I let it continue." Helping Daniel was not foolish. Continuing after they stopped appreciating it was. Natalie paused. "He called me. He says you are punishing the children." "Of course. I told him adults with 2 car leases should not use preschoolers as human shields." I smiled. Then she said, "He also claimed you have been irrational since Dad died." The words landed hard. Peter had been gone 11 years. Daniel had never used my grief against me. "I told him never to say it again," Natalie added. "Thank you. Do you want me to come?" "Not yet." "Then promise you will not rescue him when he panics." "I will not." "You always say that." "This time I understand something. They do not see my help as love. They see it as infrastructure." "Then remove yourself from the building." By mid-afternoon, 7 boxes and the high chair were stacked neatly on my porch. I locked the screen door and waited. Marissa's SUV turned into my driveway at 3:15, one tire rolling over the grass. Daniel hurried up the steps. Marissa followed, sunglasses pushed into her blonde hair, her mouth already set for battle. Daniel stared at the boxes. "What is all this?" "Your belongings." "They are not mine." "Then your wife's." Marissa climbed the steps. "Ellen, enough. This is absurd." "I agree. That is why I'm ending it." "You packed our things because I made one joke?" "I packed them because I need my room back." Daniel reached for the screen door. It was locked. "Mom, let us go inside and talk." "No. We are short this month." "I know. We did not budget for the transfer to stop without warning." "You had 24 months of warning. Every payment was temporary." Marissa crossed her arms. Temporary support does not end because someone hurts your feelings. It ends whenever the person providing it decides to stop. "You cannot do this to the twins." "The twins have 2 healthy parents, food, clothes, and more toys than they can use. We could lose the house, Daniel said. Then sell something. Marissa laughed sharply. That is your advice? Sell the SUV, cancel the club, stop remodeling rooms that are already remodeled. Move to a house you can afford. Her face reddened. You have always resented what we have. I looked at the white SUV gleaming behind her. Marissa, I paid for what you have. Daniel flinched. She stepped closer. You paid part of one bill. For 2 years. And we included you in everything. You used me in everything. There is a difference. I noticed Daniel's keys. My house key hung beside a small flashlight Peter had given him as a teenager. Give me my key. He stared at me. Why? Because you no longer need unrestricted access. You are treating me like a stranger. I am asking you to knock. Marissa muttered that I had lost my mind. I held out my hand until Daniel removed the key and placed it in my palm. Then Marissa pointed at the boxes. If you force us to leave without fixing the mortgage, do not expect to see Leo and Sophie this weekend. She had threatened to withhold the twins before, whenever I refused a request. Usually, fear made me surrender. This time, I met her eyes. I will miss them. Her confidence flickered. That is all? That is all. They carried the boxes away, the high chair wedged into the open rear hatch. After they drove off, I cried for Daniel's silence, for the twins, and for the years I had spent making myself useful enough to deserve love. Then I washed my face and opened the guest room windows. The next 4 days were strangely peaceful. Daniel sent practical messages, each more urgent than the last. Can you cover half? What if I sign an agreement? Could you lend it until my bonus? I answered once. No, you need a permanent solution, not another extension. I spent Wednesday choosing pale blue paint. On Thursday, I had lunch with my friend Ruth, who had known me since our children were in school. When I finished telling her everything, she reminded me of the school projects, debts, and mistakes I had quietly fixed for Daniel since childhood. He is a good man, I said. Good people can become dependent when someone removes every obstacle. I thought making life easier was love. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is fear wearing an apron. That sentence followed me home. On Friday morning, the 1st of the month, Daniel arrived at 7. I was drinking coffee on the porch. He parked at the curb, shoulders rounded, eyes bloodshot. We are short by $1,200. What are you doing about it? Marissa's parents gave $600. They will not give more. I can sell stock, but it takes time. Mom, please, one payment. No, his face tightened. You are enjoying this. I am enjoying my coffee. You know what I mean. I do, and you are wrong. He paced to the railing. Marissa says she is taking the twins to her parents if I cannot fix this. Then she may need to stay there. You do not care whether my marriage survives. I care very much, but a marriage held together by my transfer is already in trouble. She says you always wanted her to fail. I wanted her to treat me with decency. It was a joke. No, Daniel, it was contempt delivered with a smile. He looked away. You sat there while they laughed at me, I continued. I froze. You have been freezing for 2 years. That is not fair. Neither was using my money while allowing your wife to belittle me. His voice dropped. She will not let you see the twins. Pain cut through me. I cannot control that. You could prevent it. By paying. He said nothing. Then it would not be a relationship, I said. It would be a fee. He sank into the chair opposite me. What am I supposed to do? Tell the truth about what you can afford. Sell what you cannot. Stop expecting a bonus to rescue you. Stop protecting Marissa from consequences, and stop asking me to protect you. He rubbed his forehead. I am not refusing because I hate you, I said. I am refusing because I love you enough to stop helping you remain helpless. He laughed without humor. That sounds like one of your library books. Perhaps you should read more. For a moment his mouth softened. Then he stood. Dad would have helped. I had prepared for anger. I had not prepared for that. For 1 second, I saw Peter in his face. Then I remembered Peter refusing to pay Daniel's college credit card debt until he found a summer job. Your father would have told you to sell the car. Daniel held my gaze, then walked away. The next morning, Natalie appeared with 2 coffees, pastries, and an overnight bag. You said not yet, she told me. It is now yet. We painted the guest room together. While we worked, she showed me a social media post Marissa had written about older relatives who weaponize money and abandon young families during hardship. Do you want to respond? Natalie asked. No, internet sympathy does not pay a mortgage. That afternoon, Daniel texted that he had sold investments and borrowed the rest from Marissa's parents. Relief came first. Guilt followed. Do not confuse discomfort with wrongdoing, Natalie said. The following Tuesday, Marissa tested the boundary herself. I was buttoning my coat for pottery class when her SUV swept into the driveway. She marched toward my house holding a 5-year-old twin by each hand. Grandma, Leo and Sophie shouted. My heart lifted before caution pulled it down. Marissa tried the knob without knocking, then pounded on the glass. When I opened the door, she pushed the children inside. I have an emergency appointment. Daniel is trapped in a meeting. I need 3 hours. Leo has a cough, and Sophie cannot have dairy. She turned away. Marissa. She looked back. What? Take the children with you. Her face went blank. They are your grandchildren. I know. You said you missed them. I do. Missing them does not make me your employee. Sophie looked between us. Grandma, are we staying? Not today, sweetheart. Your mother and I mixed up the schedule. Marissa's voice sharpened. My appointment cannot be moved. Then you should have asked earlier. She stared at my coat. You are choosing pottery over your grandchildren? I am choosing not to reward disrespect. I handed the twins their backpacks and kissed their foreheads. I love you. We will plan another day. You are selfish, Marissa hissed. No, I am unavailable. I closed the door and locked it. My hands shook after her SUV disappeared. Part of me wanted to run after them, apologize, and surrender. Instead, I went to pottery class. I made a crooked bowl that leaned to one side. Ruth said it looked brave. By the end of the month, their lifestyle began changing. The SUV disappeared first. They sold a second vehicle, and Daniel started taking the train. The club membership was canceled. The twins transferred to a well-regarded community preschool. The basement theater equipment appeared online, followed by designer handbags, a wine refrigerator, and the monogrammed picnic baskets from my guest room. Then Daniel asked to visit alone. He arrived on a Thursday evening carrying nothing. No bills, no repayment proposal, no children used as leverage. He sat on my sofa and stared at his hands. Marissa hates me. She is angry. She says I failed her. What do you think? I think I did. I waited. I kept telling myself the next commission would fix everything, he said. Then the bonus. Then I thought she would understand we had to cut back. But you never required her to understand. No. And you never faced it yourself. He swallowed. I knew how much you paid. I stopped thinking about what it cost you. That was convenient. Yes. His eyes filled. At the reunion, I should have stopped her. Yes. I was afraid she would make a scene. So you allowed her to make me the scene. He nodded. I am sorry, Mom. No excuses followed. I forgive you, I said. But forgiveness will not restore the payments. I know. We are listing the house. That surprised me. A townhouse near my office has 3 bedrooms. The payment would be almost half. That sounds sensible. Marissa threatened to leave. I am sorry. I told her the math does not care what we want. Arithmetic rarely does. He laughed tiredly. Then I admitted something I had not said aloud. I helped create this habit. Every time life became uncomfortable, I rushed in. After your father died, I did it more because losing your approval felt too much like losing him again. I made myself necessary because necessary felt safer than loved. Daniel's face crumpled. He crossed the room and hugged me. At first it was awkward. Then it became the way he hugged me as a boy, with his whole weight and no calculation. I do love you. I know. I have not acted like it. No. He wiped his face. Can I bring the twins Sunday? I will stay. No drop-off. I would like that. Marissa probably will not come. She is welcome if she brings manners. That may take time. I have some. On Sunday, Daniel arrived with the twins and groceries. He cooked grilled cheese while Sophie described every child in her new classroom. Leo showed me a library book about planets and asked whether his grandfather believed in aliens. For 4 hours, no one mentioned money. Before leaving, Daniel washed the dishes without being asked. It was a small thing. It felt enormous. The house went on the market in September. Marissa did not speak to me for nearly 4 months. At first, her silence felt like punishment. Then I discovered silence only has power when you are desperate to end it. I stopped chasing her. Daniel and the twins came every other Sunday. I turned the guest room into a reading room with shelves, a deep chair, and a desk facing the garden. The money that once went to Daniel's mortgage remained in my account. I replaced my aging roof, bought a reliable car, and traveled to Italy with Ruth. In a village market, I bought a blue ceramic bowl that leaned slightly, like the first bowl I had made. While I was away, Daniel sent a photograph of his family in front of their new townhouse. It was modest and sunny, with a narrow patch of grass. Leo and Sophie held boxes. Daniel looked tired but proud. Marissa stood beside him. She was not smiling, but she had agreed to the move. By Christmas, she started joining their visits. She never gave me the apology I once imagined. There was no tearful speech, no admission that she had mocked my clothes while I saved her home. For a while, that bothered me. Then I realized an apology is not the only evidence of change. Marissa knocked before entering. She asked whether I was available before requesting help. She brought a casserole to Christmas dinner and stayed to wash dishes. When one of her brothers joked about my old cardigan, she said, "Ellen has better priorities than we do," and changed the subject. It was not warmth, it was respect. For the first time, respect was enough. They never asked me for money again. When Sophie needed braces, Daniel took weekend consulting work. When their sedan needed repairs, Marissa picked up shifts at a boutique. They complained, argued, and paid their own bills. Their marriage survived, not gracefully but honestly. Without me as the hidden solution, Daniel became direct, and Marissa learned discomfort was not an emergency. A year after the first reunion, Marissa's parents hosted another summer gathering. I almost declined. Daniel called 2 days before. "You do not have to come," he said, "but I would like you there." "Will your wife?" She said yes. "That is not what I asked." He sighed. "She is nervous." "So am I. If anyone says anything, I will stop it. I can defend myself." "I know. I want you to know I will defend you too." That was why I went. The patio looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe it had never been grand. Maybe humiliation magnifies the room where it happens. Marissa greeted me at the gate carrying a salad bowl. "I made too much," she said. "Could you help me put it on the table?" The request was ordinary, but the word help mattered. It was not a command. At lunch, Marissa stood and lifted her glass. My body tensed before I could stop it. Daniel noticed and placed his hand over mine beneath the table. Marissa looked directly at me. "To family," she said, "and to learning that every person at the table should be valued for who they are, not for what they bring." No one laughed. No one needed to. She did not mention the old toast. She did not say she was sorry. But there was no mockery in her eyes. I raised my glass. To learning. Later, while the twins chased Bubbles across the lawn, Daniel stood beside me. "Was that enough?" he asked. I watched Marissa carry plates into the kitchen. "It is a beginning." Peter used to say rebuilding trust was like repairing old wood. You could fill the crack, sand the surface, and make it strong, but the grain would always reveal where the break had been. I no longer needed the grain to disappear. I only needed the table to hold. People sometimes ask whether I regret exposing the mortgage in public. Perhaps there was a gentler way? But gentleness had become the language they used to keep me quiet. Every private conversation ended with promises, tears, and one more payment. The truth changed us only when it was spoken where appearances could no longer hide it. I did not destroy my son's family. I stopped financing its illusion. For years, I believed a good mother should soften every fall, cover every shortage, and accept every slight so her children always had somewhere to land. Instead, I built a landing place so comfortable that Daniel forgot he could stand. I also taught Marissa that my love could be invoiced. Ending the payments did not make me heartless. It made the relationship honest. The twins still run through my door, but their parents ask first. Daniel comes for advice, not rescue. Marissa and I may never be close, yet she treats my home and time with care because she understands that they are not hers to command. As for me, I stopped measuring my worth by how useful I could be. My reading room is filled with books, morning light, and the blue bowl from Italy. My garden is larger. Ruth says my pottery has improved, though most of my bowls still lean. I do not mind. There is strength in something that stands without being perfectly balanced. Love does not require endless access to your wallet, your house, your time, or your dignity. Support freely given is kindness. Support demanded is control. When generosity becomes the admission price to your own family, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to pay. I once believed I had to earn my seat at their table. Now I know better. I have my own table. The people who sit there bring honesty, respect, and sometimes a casserole. No one is required to arrive with gifts. No one is permitted to arrive with contempt. And I never again mistake being needed for being loved.